Hello, welcome to the channel, welcome to another new project, and slightly unusual format again. I'm still tweaking things. I'm filming this after I finished the model. That's because I forgot to film this part at the start, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I can fill you in all the details normally that I do in this little intro piece. The subject of this model, as you've seen by the title, is this little beauty here. It's Arma Hobby's latest release, as I film this, the H75 Hawk P-36. Essentially, in the initial boxing, which is the French boxing, Arma Hobby are obviously a Polish company. The connection is that the marking choices here were flown by pilots, and the one I've chosen is by Jan Zumbach. Sorry to all my Polish friends if I've pronounced that completely wrong. Very famous pilot, because he is the chap who flew the Spitfire Mark V with the big Donald Duck on the nose, and you know, with all those kill markings. So really interesting subject. Right, as is normal for these videos, I'll just point out all the extras that I used. None, essentially. Arma, when you buy their kits now, they publish a QR code that takes you to the 3D printed files for that particular model. So if you have a 3D printer or a friend who has a 3D printer, you can get your hands on the 3D printed accessories. What they've just started to do is actually sell those as part of the pre-order process. Now, I'm very lucky in that I'm sponsored by Arma Hobby. They do send me review samples. This one, though, I bought. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to support the company. They've been very generous to me, and I thought I'd give a little bit something back. And I've ended up buying this one. And I pre-ordered it, and I pre-ordered the 3D printed little set. In that set you get the one part seat with molded in seat harness and sort of rear bulkhead thing. It's all one part. You get the exhausts, which are hollow and beautifully detailed. What else do you get? You get the gun sight sort of shelf thing in the cockpit, although there was no gun sight mounted in this aeroplane because it had a ring and bead sight, and you get that in the 3D printed set and multiple copies. As you will see by the end reveal photos, I didn't bother with the ring and bead sight because it was just so small. And then about 10 minutes ago, I'm about to film this, and you go, do you know what? It's been really bugging me that I didn't do the ring and bead sight. And partly is I've got to get the model home, and I'm not sure it would survive. They're just effectively sort of butt jointed, glued in, although I did drill a little hole. We'll see if they survive when it gets home. So it's done now. There might be a couple of photos right at the very end where you can see that. If not, pop over on my Facebook page and you'll see it there, because as soon as I finish filming this, I'm going to post that up. Right. The markings, you get 3 in the box. I've done a full sprue tour of this. It's beautifully detailed inside and out. What I have done, though, is you'll see I have riveted the entire airframe. Is it prevaricated or procrastinated? Someone will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. Maybe it's both. I'm not sure whether to rivet this or not, because I was going to do the camouflage version. I'm so glad I did. And I ended up going down the route of painting most of the markings. There are decals on this model, but all the main markings, the roundels and everything, they are all painted. Right, I'm just going to pick up the model. I've got to be very careful because I've done the rigging on it, yeah, really fine. Here it is in all its glory. You'll see when you get to the painting stage, it's all done with MRP. What I will do is in the description, I'll put my paint mixes, because MRP don't do the French paints, and I did my own mix. So I'll put that in the description as well if you're a fan of MRP and you want to paint it. But here we are, beautiful little thing. I'm going to put it down because I really don't want to knock off the ring and bead sight. One thing I did find invaluable was this book here. Sorry, I'll try and get it, get rid of the glare. This book here, in the Polish Wings series, beautiful books. It's not very thick. It is very thin. How many pages? 52. So 52 pages. But what it has got is like jam-packed, full of gouge about the pilots, about the aeroplanes they flew in France. And there's a little section at the back that has some of the RAF ones that were flown in the Far East. There we go. So there's a few of those in the early camouflage and the later camouflage. There's also a section at the end on young Gabi Gabreski, who was of Polish origin, and he flew the P-36 in Merca before the war. What is also really useful for me is the aeroplane I've built is in the book, albeit it's in the previous markings. I much prefer the one with the bigger roundels. I think that looks really, really cool. This one has big roundels on the wings, but none on the fuselage and the big motif. And that is an option in the kit as well, with the tiny little roundels as well. So this book, if you're going to do a Polish one, or Polish flown one, I highly, highly recommend. Right, enough waffle from me, because you've come here to see the modelling, haven't you? Not to listen to me witter on. Let's pop over to the bench and we'll get cracking on with the project. Welcome to the bench, and as you can see, everything started with riveting the airframe. I've already riveted it. I've shown it before. I'll leave a link at the end to the review of the Galaxy Riveter, where I show you how I actually use it. But you can see the difference it makes. Considerable, I would say. Now, it's not the most accurate rivet pattern. The P-40 was festooned in rivets. That's probably about 50% on the wings there. Fuselage is accurate though. But it really makes the airframe look really, really busy, even in 70-second scale. Well worth it, I think. These are the 3D printed bits. So you can see, absolutely tiny, but it's all packed in there. Instrument panel, gun sights, exhausts, and the one-piece bulkhead and seat with moulded in seat harness. Decided to do a bit of chipping on the floor, masked off the sort of footplate bits, sprayed them in Alclad duralumin, or ammo A-stand Alclad duralumin, interior green over the top, and then I've had this stiff brush for years, plenty of water, scrubbing motion, and we can chip the MRP. Can enhance things just with the tip of some old tweezers for some scratches and things, but yeah, it looks really good. Wheel wells, you have a choice of two in the kit. These are the open wheel wells, which I drilled out as well. The lightning holes. You can get the canvas covers as well. Probably the canvas covers, I would say, is probably the accurate choice for a French one. Maybe, I don't know. But I preferred the look. Two-piece wing. Just goes down. And that gets glued in. Cockpit now, really well detailed, standard fare from Arma Hobby. Unusually decided to spray the black control boxes, but you know, it's relatively shallow, the detail, and they are squares and rectangles, so it's very easy to mask off. Steady hand now painting the seat harness. These are from the prototype not A-stand, the Atom paints from Ammo. I just helped them out a bit, gave them a bit of feedback from the prototype paints, and they brush paint really, really well. I tend to thin it quite a bit with water and prefer to do 2 or 3 light coats rather than try and cover it up in a wanna. Leather effects now. This is for the headrest. So base coat of the leather tone goes on, and then I'll use diluted sort of a very dark black brown and then rust tones to get that sort of faded old leather look. Dry brush paint from Arma, absolutely wonderful stuff. Who knew that you could do a dry brush paint in acrylic, but the light green makes short work of highlighting all the structural detail. And then an oil wash Starship Filth, obviously, works with absolutely everything pretty much. Brilliant tone, and that just makes everything pop. You see there I've added some decals, all comes with the kit, and really well detailed. Various placards and control boxes and things. There's the finished seat, just needs a matte coat now, just to blend it all down. That's the instrument decal. Arma Hobby are masters at the instrument decal. They are brilliant. Use my standard super glue for the fuselage halves once it was all sanded and polished. It was relatively easy to scribe in the detail. I'm using an old broken saw here, and just going sort of only going back, not sawing if you like, just dragging it backwards, and that way it's easier, much easier to keep the saw in the right place. Quick polish with Infinity sanding sponge, old toothbrush, just to do the best I can to clean it out, and then just melting any residue with some Tamiya extra thin quick setting type. Now the rivets over the top and the bottom of the fuselage seam, I didn't do the rivets here. I always leave this blank because trying to line them up is nigh impossible. So if you just wait until you've finished the seams, you can go right over the top, right over the seams, and you know everything's going to line up. I tend to do that on the leading edges these days as well. With the fuselage halves together, the bulkhead seat thing can go in from underneath. Fits very well. Obviously being resin, it needs super glue and these little applicator things. Dead cheap off Amazon, like a couple of quid for 100 or something. And you can get right up there and glue it into place. Same with the instrument panel. Wing to fuselage join is very good. I did have to do a little bit of trimming down the back end, just a little bit of sanding just to help it all go down. Probably just a little bit of moulding flash because it is very fine. Out with the Swedish blue clamps. Rebel Hobby from Sweden do these. People always ask me where do I get them from, and they're really good, but they've got these kind of rubberized feet, so you do have to be careful that you don't get any glue seeping underneath. Close peg, very gentle pressure required just to match up the contours at the front of the wing root. So I just used the closed peg, it was just a little bit easier. And you can see the advantage of that brush from Arma, from their cement. Really precise, it's really long, so you can get right in there. And we'll just leave that to dry and go off solid. Tiny little gap at the back, just wanted to fill that seam. This is Perfect Plastic Putty by Deluxe, water based, so you can just put it in and then with a damp finger just wipe it off, and that is job done. Quite a involved assembly forward of the cockpit actually. So these two parts go together. I use the mix of the Tamiya glue, as you can see there, and black super glue for the visible seam. And once that seam is taken care of, that can just pop on the front. So that's going to have the engine mounted that you'll see in a moment. Another advert for the ammo glue, because that brush is just amazing. So you can get right up on the inside as well with that brush. Before the engine though, we could do the tail. One piece tailplane goes on. It's kind of Arma's trademark almost, is this breakdown of engineering. Works really, really well. Mixer glues there, so just the resin type glue first. That's going to give all the strength, and then we just seal the gaps with the liquid cement. Tail fin just pops on. That's been riveted as well, of course. Slightly offset, which is prototypical, just to counteract the torque. There's the engine. I didn't film the painting of it. It's very straightforward, but you can see the detail on it. Absolutely lovely. Little bit of trimmage required for the cowling pieces. This bit just pops on underneath, just reducing the height slightly of the bit underneath, and then we can just go in and glue that down. Now what I did is I did all the pieces of the cowling at the same time, so I knew nothing was rock hard straight away. I could manipulate everything. Just the gun barrels drilled out. Those are tiny little separate parts on the front there. And then it's just a question of working your way around. So I do recommend to just do this in one sitting, because then everything is not rock solid. You can adjust here and there, a little bit of pushing here, a little bit of tweaking there, and you should be able to get quite a neat job. I really wish though that Arma would do a 3D printed one-piece cowling, because that would be brilliant. Anyway, until they do, it's not too onerous. It's just a bit fiddly, a bit of a faff, and you just have to take your time and be very careful. But if you do, there you go. That's what you'll end up with. Meow, dagga dagga. Can't resist. Right, I did break the elevator hinge. That's just me being clumsy. So just a bit of sort of rectangular plastic strip, and as you can see, it's much easier to put a big bed on and then trim it to size, and then the elevator can just slot in. Tiny bits of glue just to glue that into place. Got to be quite careful. The gluing surface is not massive. The rudder, I'm just popping it in just to see what it looks like. I'm going to paint that separately. Actually use the decals. I'm doing the French one, but I couldn't resist just popping it on. Bit of a dry fit just to see what the airframe looks like. And stand by to brake right. Brake right. Off we go. We're all children at heart, aren't we? This sort of intake thing goes on underneath. It's got the vanes at the front. It's very finely moulded. No flash on this at all, and that just pops in. The resin exhausts, they are much more refined. They're hollow, they're crisply moulded. The fit isn't perfect, so a little smear of filler here and there. Right, now the quarter lights down the back. You see I've painted it aluminium, or duralumin. This is how they were done in the French. They were all delivered in natural metal, and then they were camouflaged in France. And I found references that said that the quarter lights were left in natural metal, so that's how I did mine. You've got to drill a hole in the left hand one for the fuel filler cap. My hole's a little bit too big. Yeah, that was a bit awkward, but still, it looks good. You wouldn't know. Well, You do now because I told you, but you know what I mean. Using the ultra glue from Ammo, dries rock hard, crystal clear. And you can see there, I've actually painted black around the surrounds to avoid that sort of plastic, sort of see-through reflection effect. I did have to clamp the fuselage sides in for the windscreen and do a little bit of sanding, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. And there's everything masked up. So mixture of tape, sponge and poster putty. And we are ready for paint as I brake right and fly off to the paint shop. So thanks very much for watching. Lovely little kit, as you can see, beautifully detailed, just enhanced with the riveting, which I think makes a big difference. Goes together really well. You just got to be quite careful, take your time. Smear a filler here and then, but nothing too bad. And a lovely little model. So join me in the next part where I'm going to paint and weather it, and I'll leave you a picture of the finished model as a bit of inspiration. So hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye bye.